Okay, so today one of my customers asked me, one of my valued customers, g'day Tim, asked me a simple question that I thought was going to have a simple answer. He wanted to update the firmware on his Shelly Dimmer 2, which I've got one just sitting here, and he wanted to do it without access to the internet. So he wasn't able to get the Shelly Dimmer 2 connected to a Wi-Fi access point that has internet. So what I'm going to do is take you through the overly complicated process that could really be fixed by Shelly just putting an upload box on the Shelly web interface. But this is the quickest and easiest way that I've been able to do it, and you can follow along and hopefully do the firmware update on your Shelly device. So we're working today with a Shelly Dimmer 2. I've got it sitting here. It's brand new out of the box, so it's not configured to connect to any network. You can get yours into this state by following the reset process, which is inside the manual. What we have to do today, though, is that we're going to, first of all, download a couple of things. I downloaded a thing called Rebex Tiny Web Server, which is just a simple standalone executable that lets you have a web server on your computer. We're just going to be using that temporarily, start and stop. It's really easy to run and configure. The next thing you're going to need is a copy of your Shelly firmware. Now, a lot of these instructions that I found had a link to the Shelly firmware archive link generator. Now, I found that this was actually missing the latest firmware version from what I could find. Maybe that's not the case. So looking at the one that the Shelly Cloud firmware here, we're looking for 2023 version 1.14.0. So let's have a look and see whether or not they've got that here. They do. Cool. So 1.14.0. So ignore what I said about it having outdated files. It just had them in the wrong order, and that's why I didn't see it when I was first having a quick look through before making this video. So in saying that, it's good to know this link. I'll include it in the description. That gives you just like a really hard to read version of this. But then I'll also include a link to the Shelly archive link generator tool. Now, what you're supposed to do in here is that you're supposed to put in the IP address of your Shelly device, choose the type of Shelly device that you have, the firmware that you want to put on it, and then it gives you a handy dandy link. That will let that Shelly device connect up to the internet and download the latest Shelly version. However, in this case, we're doing this as if we don't have internet. So if you're doing this somewhere that you're not going to have internet, you're going to need to do all this stuff first. So you're going to need to have the Rebex web server first. You're going to need to have a copy of the firmware file before you go to the place where the Shellys are that doesn't have internet. So what we want to do first is that you can type whatever you like into the IP address, choose the version of Shelly that you have. This only works on Gen 1 devices. Gen 2, they made some changes, and you can't do this trick with them. So we're choosing the SHDM2, and we're choosing the latest firmware version, which is 1.14.0. So what we're going to do first is we're going to grab the URL to the zip file, copy that. So you can right click and go copy, or you can press Ctrl+C like I am in the background, and paste that in and press enter and download it. I've already downloaded that file. So I've already downloaded it and put it in a folder on my desktop called web server. We'll go through why I did that shortly, but you can just download the file for now, and then I'll show you what to do. The next thing that we need to do is that we're going to, now that we've got the Rebex web server and we've got our Shelly file, we need to unpack the Rebex web server. So I'm going to copy these two files here, so the web server and the configuration file, to the desktop, which I've already done. And we're just going to edit this web server configuration file. Now, when you click on it, it might pop up and ask you, what do you want to open this with? I've chosen Notepad because that's a really easy way to edit it. The only thing that we need to change in here is the webroot dir value. Now, you don't really have to change this. You could just call this folder www root or whatever you want to call it, but I like to set it up this way, so it's up to you what you want to do. Also gives me an excuse to show you how to edit the config. So web root dir, that means the directory that the web server is going to be pointing at, that we're going to get the Shelly to connect to download the file from us, from our computer directly. So we're going to open up the config file, go to the web root dir, change that to // and then web server. Now the / means that it's in the same location as the executable that you're running. So notice that I've got the regex tiny web server on my desktop, and I've also got the folder called web server that has that file that we downloaded earlier inside of it. So you want it to be set up just like this. It doesn't really matter where you run it from. I'm doing it from the desktop just for simplicity. But so long as these three files are in the same location with this zip file inside of it, then that's all that really should matter. So once we've edited that file, then we're going to press save. And the next thing we've got to do is connect up to our Shelly. So I'm going to open up my Wi-Fi configuration here, and we're going to look for available networks around me. So I've got this Shelly Dimmer 2 network coming up. That's because this thing just came out of the box. In the manual, there is a factory reset procedure on how to do that. You can reset this. Once you reset it back to factory defaults, then yours will be doing the same as what this one's doing now. So we're going to press connect, and then Windows is now going to connect to this web server on the Shelly device. Now you'll notice in Windows that it says connecting and it never finishes. For Windows to think that a Wi-Fi network is connected, it needs to have internet, which this Shelly Dimmer does not have internet at the moment. So, you know, it will never properly say connected, or it will come up and say connected without internet eventually. Once we've connected, what you're going to want to do is open up a command prompt. Here's one I prepared earlier. I'm just going to clear that out. Once you've got your command prompt open, oh, by the way, to open command prompt, just click on the start menu, type in CMD, that's CMD, Charlie Mike Delta, and then press enter. Once you've got your command prompt open, we're going to type in ipconfig, ipconfig. That's going to show us our computer's IP configuration. Now you can see that for my wireless LAN adapter, I've got lots of network adapters here, but the only one we're looking at is the wireless LAN adapter, and that is connected with an IP address of 192.168.33.2. That means that my computer's IP address is 192.168.33.2. Now, I know, because I've done this before, is that Shelly's default IP address is 192.168.33.1. So if I open up my web browser, open up a new tab and type in 192.168.33.1 and then press enter, you'll see now that we've got access to the Shelly Dimmer 2 interface. You'll notice at the top that the little cloud is red because I can't connect to the internet. This one here is lit up because I'm connected to the Wi-Fi. This would actually tell you, this would go green if you were connected to your Wi-Fi network. And this one here is showing you that the web interface is not protected by a password. So this is what it's going to look like out of the box by default. So what we want to do, now that we've connected to the Wi-Fi, we're going to start up our web server. So I'm going to open this up, and you'll notice here that the server IP is 192.168.33.2. That's what we needed to say there. Then we're going to press start. Actually turns out that I have two of these running at the same time. So I'm just going to press stop on the other one and then restart it again. Sorry about that. You can only have one of this regex web server open at a time, or else it's going to come up with error messages. Click on start, and it says the server is started and is ready to accept connections. So that is great. Now all we need to do, assuming that you've got everything set up the same way that I do, so you've put the latest firmware version zip file inside a folder called web server, you've gone into the configuration file and you've made sure that that says /web server, and you've gone into regex tinywebserver.exe and you've pressed start, making sure that the 33 IP address is coming up in here. That's all we need to do. Now, what we have to do now is tell the Shelly to download the firmware file from us. So if we go back to this Shelly firmware archive link web page, you'll see that it generated a URL here that we didn't use. So we're going to edit this, and then we're going to copy and paste it into the web browser. So what we want to do first is that we're going to put in our computer's IP address. So that's the 192.168.33.2. I'm just going to Control-C to copy that. And I'm going to paste that in the second half of this, all the way up to there, so that it looks like that. Making sure that you're not putting any spaces in. This is the URL where the Shelly is going to try and download the update file from. And now one other thing we need to change is that you see how it's got this port 1180 listed here? We need to add that in here as well. So 192.168.33.2 colon 1180 shdm2-2.zip, which matches what we've got in that web folder file. The other thing we need to do is we need to put the IP address of our Shelly in here. Now, remember, we've already been to the Shelly webpage. We know that the IP address is 192.168.33.1. So we're going to remove whatever we put in here and make that 192.168.33.1. So what we should have in here first up is the IP address of our Shelly, then followed by OTA, which means over the air. So that means it's going to do an over-the-air update, then a question mark, and it's going to try and download that over-the-air update from 192.168.33.2, which is us, remember, and port 1180, which we got from in here, and then / shdm-2.zip, which is going to get it from this web server folder on the desktop. So let's grab that link and then let's paste it into our web browser, and hopefully, if this works, it will pop up down the bottom in here and say updating. Perfect. So we'll see two things happen here. So in our web page here, it says status updating. And it doesn't say the new version in there because it doesn't know what it is until it downloads the zip file and checks. But you can see that the old version was a 2021 version 1.9.4. And you can also see that on our RebX web server, if you've still got that open, that the Shelly 33.1 downloaded that file. So I'm pretty sure that this is going to work. So now if we go to the Shelly URL, which we can just get rid of that, or we can go back to our other one. So I'm just going to get rid of that and then press enter. If it doesn't load up straight away, which is what it's doing now, it may be for two reasons. I know that the reason that it's happened here is because my computer's jumped back onto my home Wi-Fi connection. When you're doing a firmware update, the device may reboot and restart, but once it's back online, it should come back up in your Wi-Fi list. So I'm just going to reconnect back up to that Shelly Wi-Fi network, and then we'll try and go to this URL again. This time it's working. So now if I go across to settings and I go down to firmware update, we can see that the current firmware version is 1.14.0, which is the 2023 version. So we have successfully updated the firmware. Now, there's a few reasons why you may want to do this. Maybe you're unable to get it connected to your network and you want to get it on the latest version, in an offline fashion, or maybe you've got these installed somewhere that you just don't have internet and you can't do an over-the-air update. So that's the process. Look, if you've got any questions, feel free to leave some comments on the video, or you can go to our website, thehomeautomationstore.com.au, get in touch with us there, and we'd be more than happy to help. Right, have a great day.